Good morning. I am Lou Federici on the Board of Selectmen. Our first selectman, Matt Hoey, is coming back from Atlanta today, so I have here to run the meeting, and we have a public hearing to start to obtain comment on an ordinance to amend the code of the town of Guilford, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, as we usually do for our regular meetings. Charlie, if you raise your hand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, I'll just read the notice for our public hearing here. Notice is given that the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, February 4th at the Community Center to obtain public comment and consider enactment of an ordinance to amend the code of the town of Guilford, Chapter 58, Human Rights Commission. Copies of the ordinance are on file and available for inspection in the office of the town clerk, 31 Park Street, during regular business hours. All interested persons are invited to attend and be heard, and will be heard today. We have many people here, thank you. And written communications will be received for entry into the record. The notice is published pursuant to Section 3-48 of the Charter of the town of Guilford. And is there anyone here who would like to be heard? But first come, first serve. Just your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Claricia Sahara, 399 Norton Town Road here in Guilford. And I am one of the co-chairs who approached the board with this proposal. And, we wanted to thank the Board of Selectmen for hearing it and for holding this public hearing. We appreciate the time and the attention that you have given this matter, as it is something that is really important to us. For myself personally, I am an immigrant, married to an immigrant, and we've settled here in Guilford, and this is our new hometown. And when the racist graffiti happened, which started my involvement specifically in this venture, I was shocked, and I knew something had to change because, my understanding is that it was targeted towards Asians, and my husband is of Asian descent, as is my child, and it's something that just sticks with us. It's something that you don't forget. You wonder if the person next to you is that same person that has that hate for you. And I just am really happy, really glad to see this move to promote some unity and some better understanding and appreciation of other cultures. So I want to thank you guys again for that.
Thank you. Very nice. Anyone else like to be heard? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Katherine Westgard, 205 State Street, Guilford. And first of all, I just want to say how grateful I am, especially for the people in this room and the people sitting here. This shows our community. This last year, we've experienced quite a sadness. And the unity that has been expressed in this community for one of our community and a family, it's just breathtaking. I would hope that everyone in our community would feel that kind of unity. And obviously it's here, it's inherent in Guilford. So what better than to have a title of a Human Rights Commission as something that Guilford is proud to say they have. It's a light for our communities near us. It's a light for Connecticut. It's a light for a nation. And unity is something we're all trying very hard to pray about, to have active in our lives. And I feel this is a huge step forward to have that title, and that we can all work together on making sure everyone feels safe embraced, we're inclusive, and I can't be prouder and I can't be more grateful for this moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Dr. Alexander Hoffman, 27 Coggins Court, here in Guilford. It's a longstanding American value or set of values to accept others who are different from us into our nation and into our communities. However, that's a value that we have not always lived up to. It is always hard for anyone on the individual or on the community or on the national level to consistently live up to one's values. Living up to one's values takes effort, takes work, takes intentionality. And I am very glad that this town is considering making those kinds of efforts so that Guilford can live up to the values that so many of its residents believe in.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of folks here. Anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning, select people. My name is Frank Walsh. I live at 232 South Union Street. I was one of the many people who had welcome neighbor signs on their lawn, and one was slashed, mine was slashed. And it wasn't a reflection of the values of Guilford, but it did set off a bit of an alarm in my head that there's an element out there that thinks that maybe they can get away with it. And I am wholeheartedly in support of the commission that would at least establish where Guilford stands on the right side of accepting neighbors, whatever they look like, whatever the color is, whatever the nationality. But also I was a little alarmed at the fact that when I actually reported to the police, among many people who did, and I was a little alarmed at the fact that it was treated as vandalism. And that was alarming to me because I think statistics are skewed because we don't identify hate incidents as opposed to vandalism. So I would hope that maybe the council, if it's established, and hopefully it will, look at these matters more closely to say, this really smells of a hate crime as opposed to simple vandalism, because I didn't see any real estate signs slashed, you know. So it was an indicator that people were targeting specific signs in Guilford, and they all represented signs of acceptance, signs of welcoming. And that's what Guilford is, and I think the Human Rights Council would be in keeping with who we are as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else like to be heard this morning? There was one.
Ginny King at 264 State Street. And thank you for going this far, for the consideration for having this commission. And we're just here to support what already has been said. And I do think, in addition to it being a statement that our town is very intentional about having everybody feel safe and secure and welcome in this community, that will also give a place for people who feel as though they have been insulted or hurt in any way or misunderstood in any way. They'll have a place that they can go and talk about it in a safe environment, and as well as having support for the community as we try to be honest about situations that are unfriendly and unwelcoming that happen in this town. So I encourage you to support and create this commission that would make all of us feel together and safe. Thank you.
All right, we have some other folks here. Anyone? Okay. I guess we have it on our regular agenda. We can take up discussion at that point. So, hearing no other persons in our audience that want to speak, right? Okay, I'll call the public hearing to a close. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Do we actually get to hit the gavel?
Take the opportunity.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Okay. All right, so we just slide right into our regular meeting minutes. So I'll call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order for February 4, 2019. All right, first item is minutes. We have a couple sets of minutes. Start with our regular meeting of January 22nd. Any questions or comments? Anyone? Oh, okay, no comments on the, so we'll have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I abstained because I wasn't at the meeting.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any, no, we got no denials, okay, so the minutes are accepted. I guess I realized we should circle back. Do we have any public comment on any item on the agenda this morning? Okay, makes that easy, thanks. So we have another set of minutes. We have two workshops, January 24. Workshop minutes.
I move they're accepted.
Second.
Any other discussion, comments, corrections? No? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right, thanks, everyone. So then, oh, excuse me, they both say January 24 and so the first meeting was the 23rd, and then the 24th is what we have now, the meeting. No, this is so confusing.
Yeah, it looks like I
Yeah.
put the 24th up top under there. It's on the bottom of your board pack.
So the first meeting was on the 23rd, that's what we just
The 23rd, but I
approved.
think the 24th minutes were stuck in there
Yeah.
instead of 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah, but they are lower on your document.
Okay, do we need a motion for the 23rd now, because we just did the 24th?
Yeah, that
I'll
sounds like
move the
it.
23rd, too.
Thank you, Charlie.
I'll second that.
All right, any comments on the minutes of the 23rd? No, hearing none? Thanks, all approved. Aye.
Aye.
Next item of business is a report on water company infrastructure investments. We apparently have Craig, how do I say that? Patla?
It's Craig Patla, however, he couldn't make it today, so I'm in his place.
And you are?
Jim Casagrande.
Jim, thanks, sir.
I'm manager of project engineering for the Connecticut Water Company.
Great, thanks.
I have some materials, but I don't know if I have enough for everybody. I wasn't expecting this format. Should I distribute
We'll
something
have
to
one
you?
set, we will give it to our secretary, but we'll pass it along for, well,
I think if I pass that around. we
it's
should
Jim,
have-
right?
It's Jim,
Jim,
yes.
thanks. Oh, this one here.
I may as well distribute since.
Yeah. If anybody wants, we have some
I do
copies.
have
here.
enough to pass out.
All right, thanks.
Well, that's the same thing that's in our book.
We got that.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. I just stamped the draft because I noticed that there was some incomplete information at the
right,
end.
here you go. You can have that.
What I'd like to do is just introduce you to some projects that we have going on that we budgeted for this year. In the town of Guilford, it's going to be a rather busy year for us. In the town of Guilford, these things tend to go in clusters, but what we're doing is we're reaching the end of our improvement plans in our long-range capital improvement plan. And Guilford is at the end of our system. So this is going to be our main focus for the coming year. And our year is a calendar year, so it doesn't coincide with the town budget, of course. So we're here. If I could work you from east to west, the first thing that we're going to be doing is the Clabbert Hill tank. If everybody's familiar with the Clabbert Hill tank on next to Flag Marsh Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, it's a landmark.
Big one.
So, the tank is way past its usable life. We haven't actually made use of it in the system for quite a few years. We've just finished construction of a new tank in Madison, where we spent a significant amount of capital. This tank is now obsolete, and what we do have scheduled for late in the year is removal of the tank. To make everybody aware, that tank is on Town of Guilford property. We have a lease, I believe we're into 2077, if I did my math correctly. I think it was a 90-year that was renewed in the mid-'80s. To again, another 90 or 99-year lease. So that tank is on Town of Guilford property. We plan to remove that late in the year. We did circulate just a fact sheet on there that we're going to try and do a little bit of PR and get the message out that we do plan on removing that tank, and a little bit of history of the tank and why we're going to be taking it down.
Are the roads going to be closed in that area for that?
I would expect not. It will be a tight site to work with. We did a similar in Westbrook. I don't know if everybody was aware of that project, but we took down the Westbrook elevated tank directly across from Water's Edge. Similar type project, and it was a minor disturbance to local traffic. Major attraction, though.
Any idea how long you expect that process to take?
These removal projects typically take less than a month. We're basically in and out. Hardest part is getting it permitted and getting underway. So we'll be reaching out to the local departments and getting our ducks in a row. So that's the first one, is a Clappert Hill tank. I don't know if I can answer any questions on that.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks.
The next one is probably the most major project. It's replacement of the water main on Boston Street and Water Street. Large project. It's nearly 2 miles of main. $3.5 million or so. Boston Street has been identified as a limiting factor in our system for fire protection to this immediate area. So this is part of our water infrastructure projects that we continuously do. So we've identified basically from the tank down to West River, Jacobs Lane, to be slated for replacement this year. Right now, the project is in design. It's with DOT. It's all state road. So we're waiting on their comments to see what the design approach, but we anticipate this to be basically throughout the rest of the year, as soon as we have permission to get into the state road. So the approach is still open because we haven't gotten comments back from DOT, and typically once we get comment from DOT is when we develop our construction approach and scheduling for the project.
So that's gonna go right through the main center of the town.
Yes, it will.
And are you looking at the summer for that?
It would progress through the summer, yes.
The actual construction?
Yes.
Because that, I mean, the center of town is busy year-round, but I honestly believe it's busier in the summer than any other season. There's no traffic light there.
Yes, and that's why we're in here. We're giving you a warning and get the dialogue going. But again, we
assume you've talked to the police and all that at this point, or is that still part of the process?
That's part of the process. So really what we need is feedback from DOT, what they want us to do in the state road, and then we can work on the scheduling portion of it.
Nearly every weekend, there's a function on the green in the summer.
Yes.
I mean, you may not be working on the weekends, but still, parking and access will be, I would think, impacted
Yeah, a coordination of this, absolutely. We have to get in front of everybody in the town to work on coordination of the project. But
So at
as
this
it's-
point in time, have Public Works and Police Department, and is this the first notification of this? First I'm hearing of the Boston Street project.
It likely is probably the first notification for most of you. I know that the engineers that are working on the project have reached out to, I think, the town engineer, and most likely, I would hope, others, but that may or may not be the case. I will look into that, and I'll find out. But
To Sandy's point, I mean, the tank is going to be an interesting conversation piece, but other than a loss of income, well, which is not insignificant, Boston Street construction in the summertime, that's going to take some extreme coordination.
And I assume there'll be public hearing requirement, or we can request one, have DOT representatives, water company representatives? If you could maybe
Yeah, we know
get
it's
back
a
to
state
us on
road,
that.
but still, that's going to impact our community.
well, is that something that, I'm assuming you're,
Well, we'll want to talk to the first selectman, but,
oh, okay.
but I would think that a public hearing to
Yeah,
Just to
Okay.
back up on that,
educational,
some
get
town-
the DOT
Some
representatives.
town official involvement, even though it's a state road, it's.
Right.
Exactly, and that's why we're getting in front of you, because.
So what everybody's looking for is, the schedule's not set yet.
Correct.
Okay. And the town will have some opportunity to work with the water company to kind of stage this in a way that's less disruptive than it might otherwise be.
It will be destructive, no, not destructive. It will
Disruptive.
be disruptive. Strike that from the thing. It will be disruptive, no matter what time.
It beats losing a water main. We appreciate
Well-
the upkeep of the system.
Let's,
So-
let's keep that in mind, that you started out by saying that what we have right now is not really sufficient for fire protection
Yeah.
purposes. So that's certainly to be
Yeah,
weighed against
and-
the disruption.
And our concern is really, we've compressed and pushed a lot into Guilford in 1 year in this project. So, that we need to work with you on the approach to it. But again, right now, it's at DOT for comment, and we really don't know how they're going to handle the project. In Clinton, they had us do night work, which is equally as disruptive.
Sure.
So,
We just, if there's a project manager assigned, they should get in touch with the first selectman's office.
I mean, closing
Just to
down
kind
the-
of bring a little bit of information exchange to a head, that'd be great.
Closing over the bridge, I mean, this goes all the way over to,
Yeah, over the Water Street.
yeah, there's it's
and that
actually.
bridge already has issues roadway
No,
wise, so.
thank you for bringing that up, because this project is actually broken into 4 sections, with the bridge being a individual one, which may proceed anyhow. We know that there's concern with the bridge, both the elevation and condition.
That was
However,
shut down
that
for almost a year when it was reconstructed, 20 years ago now.
So 20 years ago, we had done a water main on there. We did our water crossing assessments, and that one came up as the most critical replacement in the state. So that has to be done. So
I
we
mean,
will.
that's a,
It's
while
a
I can
corrosion
appreciate
issue.
that's
Yeah.
gonna be a,
So that
substantial
one,
disruption.
but that project in itself, the bridge crossing, will be less of an impact than the water main, because the bulk of that will be off the bridge. We're under the bridge there, if you can picture it.
oh, so
Yeah, there's a
you
part
don't
of
think the
pond.
bridge would have to be closed to replace the water main?
It would not be a total closure. I would imagine that there would be a traffic restriction of some kind, but it wouldn't be a total closure of the road for the water main replacement on the bridge.
Well, when you talk about the bridge, the actual bridge over the water, I can appreciate that. But the rest of the roadway, which I almost consider the bridge where it curves around to get to the bridge. I mean, how could you dig up?
So again,
Okay, you have to figure it out.
What I was attempting to make the distinction of is the bridge itself is
Yeah,
a separate
I
project.
understand what you're
So that bridge, but once we do get in the road, yes, it would impact the traffic on the road. But that is part of the water main project and
Looking
not the
forward
bridge.
to the public hearings.
Unfortunately, they're not mine, so.
Well, and that's that's part of the issue. I mean.
No, but that's
You've got your company issues, we've got the state to deal with, and we have our citizens to look
Absolutely,
out for. So
absolutely, and that's
this
what-
is not something, I can appreciate that you might feel that these are gonna be exciting this summer, but if you're just starting the process now, I would be surprised if that kind of a project got done this summer.
take that into consideration, but absolutely, we do want to get in front of the
Gotta
town
get started.
and
It's gotta be done. and,
get the
you know,
dialogue
the
started.
fire and the worst pipes, in the state. I mean, that's gotta be dealt with.
So it's a replacement of the bridge as well? Sorry.
Not replacement of the
bridge,
bridge, just the
just
water
the
main
water
on the
under-
bridge.
okay.
But it might when the state gets wind of it, because the bridge has got issues already.
Was made aware of that, that there is the sentiment that the bridge is insufficient, and, we need to proceed with the water main replacement regardless, because as you say, with a bridge design, if DOT is to replace that bridge in the future, that's a 5-year window.
Well, that's
at-
my
at
point, though. I
minimum.
mean, to disrupt that area, never mind the rest of Boston Street and the south of the Green, disrupt that area multiple times for necessary road work. Look forward to the public hearings.
Very good. Have we talked enough about 146?
So far.
It's just beginning.
Very good. So, progressing to the west, Route 1, there's 2 water main sections in there identified, which are areas by Bishop Orchards that do not have water main at this point, and we're looking to connect those 2 pieces. It's roughly 5,000 feet. This project is ranked a little bit lower. It's optional because it's a new construction, not a replacement of existing infrastructure. But we do have it listed here, and again, that one's in front of DOT for a review and their comment.
When you say water main, this is interesting, is this all for fire suppression purposes, or once a water main is in, and there's an adjacent business or home or someone off one of these roads that comes off there, I mean, is it then possible to tap into that as, for water service?
Yeah, absolutely. This is our public water utility. We supply domestic and fire protection. So, and anybody that's facing these water mains can tie in as a regular customer of Connecticut Water.
Okay, and somehow there's a section of Route 1 here on the west side of town that has 2 little areas that aren't connected, but on either side of that, there's water main already?
That's correct.
Wow.
The system is kind of, it
Designed as a
grows.
patchwork?
It's a patchwork because it grows organically, because typically we don't fund extensions, because we're not allowed to do an extension by regulation. We're not allowed to do extension at the customer's expense. That would expand the system on the basis that we would be adding customers. In other words, if somebody comes, a developer comes in, for example, the development at the exit there, I can't remember who's actually in there.
Guilford Commons.
Thank you, because I didn't want to use our acronym for it. Guilford Commons, when they came in, they actually paid for that extension on Route 1. We call it the rock pile.
Okay.
Because it was very difficult to work on.
Yes, it's all right.
They paid for that extension on Route 1, and they actually filled in one of those pieces, so this would be connecting into that piece that they did. And this is something that we've identified as it would be a big improvement for the system to close these two legs. And we can't wait for them to be done by organic growth, because if you look at that area, there's not much going on. It's the fields by Bishops, and I think there's
Yeah,
a
but
medical
I
center.
also think there's sort of a perpetual anticipation that, you know, something's gonna happen in Route 1 West, so, I mean, that's a helpful thing to have in place. So does that mean, am I understanding it then correctly, that from the Branford border to downtown, there would be a continuous water main along Route 1?
That's correct.
And right now, there's that missing, two sections are missing, and this will close the gap.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And it's really just to provide redundancy in our system. It's, right now, we can service that area except where the water main, the immediate area that the water main is not. So it's to provide redundancy and reinforce the system.
Is it safe to assume on this map that the dark blue lines represent your water mains?
Yes. Apologize for that. It was an impromptu map, but yes, it's the dark blue lines are where we have distribution in Guilford.
Okay.
If I could jump a little to the north, the Long Hill Booster replacement. Right now, we have a station that was built for, I believe, the original high school. I think it was built late 50s, early 60s. That's reached the end of its useful life. It's a below-grade station. Not much, if anybody knows that it's actually there. It's in front of 478 Long Hill Road. It's a below-grade station, and unless you
That's the
are...
one behind the ball field?
No. No. There's 478 Long Hill, there's a cluster of pine trees, and believe it or not, there's a pump station below ground there. It's a large facility for us. What we're gonna do is replace that above ground on the adjacent property. And that below-grade station will be abandoned. That's a rather large project for us. We're about 90% done in the design, so I expect to be into land use for a special permit for that siting of that facility.
Do you own the land that you're gonna relocate it on?
That land is owned by a subsidiary of Connecticut Water, yes.
The map shows an arrow from the existing location to over by Route 1, if I'm looking at it correctly. Is that where? Am I reading
No,
it
that's
That's the next-
that's the
New
next
England
that's the
Road.
next one.
He's
Which
talking
we're
about
not
Long
really-
Hill.
Oh, down here, okay, sorry.
So Long Hill Booster, again, it's a below-grade station. We're gonna replace it with an above-grade station, and we have to do a special permit application for that with the town of Guilford, so we'll go through the public hearing process with that.
And is that an actual, like a structure, is there building and closing some
Yes.
pipes and
Yes,
such, or is it
and
just gonna
the-
be
the-
pipes jutting from the ground?
No, the design concept is basically to look like a barn-type structure, to blend in with the other architecture in the area.
Okay.
So that's that one, and so that booster replacement is a large project for us. I think it's budgeted at 1.7 million. So the New England Road Booster is a pad mount facility. It's at the entrance, the farthest entrance to the high school parking lot. It's actually kind of grown in right now and nobody really notices, but it's basically a concrete pad and electric service and some hose connections. We're gonna locate that down on Route 1 near Rhodes Pump. There's a couple hydrants there, and that's gonna be same thing, just a pad mount structure where we can put a temporary pump. May have noticed in 2017 fall we had a diesel pump on Route 1 at this location. And that was basically because we found with the way the system had grown, we could no longer use the New England Road Booster location at the high school. So we're going to provide a permanent facility down on Route 1, which is really just a pad mount and a power service on the edge of the road and for emergency use. The Pinewood well reconstruction is off of Michael Lane, Redcoat, up off of Long Hill Road. It's an old well facility that was originally done by the developer of that area. It's reached the end of its useful life, and we're going to be reconstructing that building in kind in the same footprint. So the same thing will be to the land use official to look at that one as well. But we're just essentially replacing the existing building.
The well is still functional.
The well is still functional. We use this well typically peaking in the summer, so we'll use this during the summer. But right now it's in standby.
Okay.
That's all I have.
You included the DOT, the rotary design.
Oh, I'm
which is
sorry.
another
Yeah, thank you for
topic of some
noticing that.
interest.
Oh, the Mulberry too.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's
and-
Mulberry.
and that little Mulberry Point project. So you,
Yeah.
so the rotary design is really that. It's a something that should be on your radar. Is DOT is looking to put a rotary in at that intersection. It affects our facilities. Right now, we have an interconnection with Regional Water Association Authority there. We can take up to 1 million gallons a day from regional water through that meter pit. And the reason I called it out of here, depending on what they do with their rotary design, if they make us move that facility, I may combine the New England Road Booster and that meter pit together in a single facility there. But they're still early in the design. But they were leaning towards making us relocate. So.
And what about Mulberry?
Mulberry Point is, I think, Connecticut Water's obligation there is we're going to be doing the materials through Connecticut Water Company. So that's our obligation in that project. And other than that, just support of the water system, because ultimately we'll be operating that.
And also a payment. There's a payment involved.
And we're
$1 million
responsible for a
payment.
payment. Thank you.
That's a nice way to finish.
So in total, with Mulberry, we're on the we're looking at a $6 to $7 million investment in Guilford in the coming year.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions on the board? No? Do you have anything else, Jim?
I don't have anything else. If
Appreciate it.
I'd be glad to answer anything.
Thanks for coming in. That was a lot.
Thank you.
All right. That'll bring us to Mary Jane to discuss, take possible action on a transfer from reserve for personnel to the police civilian salaries line as a result of negotiated contracts.
Good morning, you've just given my entire report, Lou, so I'm all set.
I guess somebody prepared this wonderful agenda to make life easy.
As you know, we finished negotiations with a number of union contracts at the end of last year. This is just to bring the police civilian salary line up to where it should be based on that contracted negotiations, for a difference of $6,284, which will come from budgeted reserve from personnel. So just looking for your approval and to recommend to the Board of Finance that the transfer be made.
Okay. Anybody
I'll
have any
move that.
questions for
We
Mary
talked
Jane? I guess
about
there's
it.
the answer. Right.
I'll second it.
Any
Well, we
further
talked about
discussion?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's appreciate the.
Yeah, you already had a heads up that I was
Yeah.
coming with this, so.
All right, so no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Passed, thank you
Thank you.
very much. Next, we are visiting the ordinance to amend the code of the town of Guilford, Chapter 58, the Human Rights Commission, as a result of the public hearing we had this morning, and there's a copy of the final notice in our packet. Can I have a motion to waive the reading of the entire notice? Do we need that here?
I'll move that. Yeah. Well, I'll move that, and I'm gonna move the ordinance. Can I
Okay.
do that all at once?
We'll probably do them in two. Can we just
All
waive
right,
the
I'll
reading of the
move with
notice?
waiving the reading.
Thank you.
Second.
There we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Charlie, thanks. You're good enough to keep the ball moving.
Oh, okay, I'll move the ordinance. Okay, I'm sorry.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you.
Or maybe Sue wants to second.
I would like to second it.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Mutual seconding.
So we've had this on the agenda a couple times now, and we were lucky enough to have some further public input this morning. Does anybody have any other
Well,
discussion
my
points?
comment is, normally I'm not enthusiastic about adding to the level of government and growing government and that type of thing, but this is the type of situation where, we have to formalize what Guilford stands for in my estimation. The point, I think it was Mr. Walsh spoke to, there's a difference between, vandalism and hate. And, it's unfortunate that we're at the point in our town and country where, we have to spell it out for people. I mean, it just, like I said, I just think it's unfortunate that we have to, actually legalize the way we feel about people. I mean, it's just the way we are, the legality and all of this kind of stuff, but it's very real. I mean, people have to understand there's a difference and there's consequences when you do things that are more than just stupid. That's my feeling.
Anybody else? Have a couple of?
No.
I have sort of, no?
No, I'm just very happy that it's, we've been talking about it for probably more than a year, and very happy to have it come to a positive conclusion.
I agree. I've had thoughts similar to Mr. Haverda. I think it would be great if responsibility for this was at the level of the family dinner table. All of us taking personal, individual responsibility, but that's not what's happening. And we all stood up and faced the flag when we started the hearing this morning, and we talked about liberty and justice for all. And I think it's important that we show that that's what Guilford stands for. So really appreciate the efforts of everyone who brought this forward and worked so hard for it.
Awesome. So I have a couple related thoughts, which are, and some of this came up when this commission was first proposed, and it bears mentioning that the purpose of the commission is, as was voiced by some of the folks who came here, is, it's an opportunity to have an outlet and a focus point for people when they feel like something's gone sideways, and they'll be able to assist with getting some response within the community to issues. My sense of that is that goes for all opinions that are out there. This should not be a board, nor do I think any of the folks who spoke or who are proposing this would use this as a way to suppress any valid speech, right? And ultimately, the board, as its powers are described in the motion we have before us, are to pursue community-wide education through engagement with business, private business, civic, and other organizations, and then to recommend to the Board of Selectmen programs, project activities, or initiatives from this engagement to keep educational awareness and support for human rights. So everything that would happen would still be through this board and the appropriate town entities, but this is just an opportunity for concerned people to make sure that there is a way to be heard and to make sure that they can bring that to our attention. So I think it's helpful.
I would just add that, there are, part of the new commission's responsibility will be to, promote education on there's all sorts of statutes that already address a lot of issues, bullying, discrimination. There's a process on a statute, state level. And it's understood that, a resident may not be aware of that. And so part of the commission, it's not that the board will hear human rights complaints. There are state level boards and processes. But the commission is going to help educate, a single resident who may not be aware of all the things that are out there for them.
And it's not designed to suppress strong political opinions either way, right? I mean, people can express that, and they should still continue to be able to express that. If you don't agree with it, that's all the more reason to be certain that the community enforces the right for the unpopular minority position to be heard, as long as it doesn't rise to the level of violence and hatred, which, you know, we've seen in some, thankfully, very small occasions. But with that lecture out of the way, I'm in favor of this and
Maybe
looking
we
forward
should
to the work.
identify Pam as town attorney.
Oh.
I don't know if everybody understands.
Sorry about that. Our town attorney, Pam Millman, has been good enough to clarify a few things here for us this morning, so thanks for that. So any other comments or questions from the board? No? So all in favor?
Well, the only
Oh,
other comment I might make is, I'm sorry,
That's all right.
is, I know Matt's, our first selectman is not here, but I know I've had conversations with him. I don't know whether he has any formal point to make today, but I know he is in support of this.
Yeah, well done, Charlie, thank you. I know that's exactly the case, and if there was any serious concern, we could have pushed it off to another day, but he's I know is in favor of this as well. So with that, we can take a vote on this. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right. The ordinance passes. Thank you. Thanks for everyone for being here. It brings us to some routine matters of significance, though. We have some appointments and resignations. First item is Michael Basso resigning from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Do we accept that with regret and congratulations, or whatever the phrase
So
is?
moved, yes.
All right.
Second.
Well, he went on to alternate at P and Z.
Oh, we did. So he's still,
Couldn't be on
I
both.
checked with
He's
him.
still involved there.
Oh, cannot serve on both. So he's on
Yeah.
P and Z. Great, good service. Thank you, Michael. So all
Kind
in
of hard
favor of that
to have a
resignation?
zoning thing and then.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So that's, we're accepting that resignation, yes. Next is recommendation to appoint Diane Van Steenbergen to the Guilford Park and Rec Committee for another 4 years.
So moved?
Second.
Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Recommendation to appoint Claire Dunn to the Park and Rec Commission for a term to expire on February 28, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discuss, fabulous handwriting in her letter. All in favor?
Oh, very nice.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Aye.
No. Okay, thank you. Act on a recommendation to reappoint Tara Hunt Melvin to the Park and Rec. Park and Rec is busy. To a term to expire February 28, 2023.
I would like to move that.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And a recommendation to reappoint Steve Copps to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire February 28, 2023.
So moved?
I'll second
Second.
that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And who do we have left? The recommendation to reappoint Peter Charland to the Shellfish Commission for a term to expire February 28, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Peter. Wow, there's a few more. Next is John Hall, recommendation to reappoint John Hall to the Shellfish Commission for a term to expire February 28, 2023. All in favor? Any discussion? No, I need a motion.
Well, I'll move it.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And a recommendation to appoint Susan Gilly to the Tree Advisory Board as the Leeds Island Garden Club representative for a term to expire February 28, 2023. Hope I'm saying that name correctly.
There you are. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a request to use town property, the GHS graduation on June 12, 2019 for its
What would happen if we said no? I'll move it.
Thanks. You know what? I do 2 of these a year.
You got to do high school.
Anyway, any further
Matt's not
discussion?
here, I get away with it.
Any further discussion on the high school graduation that's happened for 50 years in the same place? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Does anyone have any correspondence? Anybody?
No.
I didn't get anything this week. Any old business? I should say committee reports. We are, Matt would normally prompt me, and we are really making progress at last on the building official fees, and also the fire commission has made a recommendation in that regard. Staff is involved, they're designing some forms, and we should have really something to report, a little more concrete in a month or so. So that's moving forward. Housing is still going great?
The RFP for looking for developers, both not-for-profit and for-profit developers who might have an interest in helping us construct affordable housing on the Woodruff Rollwood property. The date for those applications is February 15th, so I'm hoping that we'll get a lot of applications, and I'll have a lot to talk about in the near future.
Anybody else have anything in the works? No? I mean, old business? Anyone? No? New business? We have public forum limited to 3 minutes regarding any issue of concern to our community. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi,
Hello.
Catherine Adams, 250 Drumore Road. I first want to say thank you so much for working with our Human Rights Committee and being so forward-thinking. I really appreciate it, as I personally have been impacted by some of what they described, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. Second is today, listening to the Connecticut Water Company representative, is that who he was?
Yes.
My question is about the abandonment of the facility, that's the booster facility, the underground. He used the word abandonment without definition, and I'm concerned of what that means, especially to abutting properties. So when we abandon a property, a workings, utility portion.
That was
and
in New England Road?
Yeah, or the Long Hill Road. Long Hill Road. So it's the underground
Yeah,
facility.
I thought he said, it's worth clarifying, but I thought he said they're going to then build a structure adjacent to it.
Adjacent to it. So what does abandonment look like, and how does that affect
So what's
abutting
left when they're
properties?
done
Yeah, what's
underground?
left. So what you leave versus what they might leave might be very different. So how does it impact
Yeah,
that
thanks.
property's value and abutting property's value? I'm just a query. And then the third item, which is there's talk about us not having an animal control officer currently, and I'm just putting that out there to public forum of, is that true, and what does that look like, because I don't know, and I was looking for information.
I think, Mitch, there's an application out for,
It's been posted.
Mitch Goldblatt, Director of Human.
Well,
That's it? Keep going, by Charles. Mitch Goldblatt, Director of Human Resources. We have a human resource. We have two. We have two animal control officers. One of which has been changing jobs to become a records clerk at the police department, and the other one is out currently and on injury. So, but the police department is covering the animal control area by shifting people around, including the officer that is moving from the animal control to the records clerk to make sure there's coverage. So, I mean, I think the police department is in control of that and certainly understands the need for that. So, and that will continue.
What's normal
and
at
we've
the time?
we've also posted for another animal control officer to replace that person. So it's not like we're going to leave it in that position permanently. And applications are now being accepted for that.
What's the normal time for that process?
For the application, well,
Application, hiring, and coming up.
yeah, the applications, I believe, are due on the 13th, if I'm not mistaken. There's exams that have to be done. Actually, they had to move that out. I think maybe March 1st. But there's exams that have to be done, interviews that have to be done, probably looking at mid-March, I would think, for
So it's under
It's
control.
being
police
covered.
department.
Oh, yeah, we posted as soon as possible. You know, as soon as the person made the move from one to the other, we've posted right away. But there is a process we have to go through, and there's also some strict requirements through the Police Chiefs Association for the testing.
All right, thanks, Mitch.
Super, thank you. That answers my question, so thank you. I figured go to the source rather than the people talking about it. I wanted to
Thank
know,
you.
so thank you so much.
Helpful.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyone else like to be heard? Public forum? Anyone? Thanks, everyone, for coming out today. Really appreciate it. And if there are no
Move
further
to adjourn.
business, move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just kidding, Mike.
Nice job, Lou.